but we were on the phone and we were yelling and screaming. I was saying everything I want to say. And after I got off the phone, I forgave him. And I was left empty. The forgiveness will rip something out of you. I mean, it will rip.
You know what's crazy? Right now, while you're watching this, Tyler Perry owns one of the biggest movie studios in America. I'm talking 330 acres in Atlanta. That's bigger than Warner Brothers, bigger than Paramount, bigger than Disney's Burbank lot. But here's the thing nobody talks about. Hollywood didn't want this to happen. In fact, they tried everything to make sure it never would. And what Tyler did to fight back? That's the real story. Stay with me, because in about 8 minutes, I'm going to reveal the exact moment when Tyler realized Hollywood would never let him win their game, so he created his own. And trust me, when you hear what they told him to his face, you're going to understand why he had no choice but to go nuclear. Let me paint you a picture real quick. It's 2005. Tyler Perry just had his first major movie success with Diary of a Mad Black Woman. The film cost about $5 million to make and pulled in over $50 million at the box office. That's a massive win, right? Any studio would be thrilled. But here's where it gets interesting. Tyler wasn't celebrating. He was furious. Why? Because he just sat through the most disrespectful meeting of his entire life. Picture this. Tyler walks into a massive Hollywood executive's office. We're talking mahogany desk, awards everywhere, the whole power move setup. And this executive, who shall remain nameless, but trust me, you'd know him, looks Tyler dead in the eye and says, "Your audience is too niche. Black women? That's not a real market." Let that sink in for a second. The man just made them millions, and they're telling him his audience doesn't matter. But wait, it gets worse. This same executive then slides a contract across the table. And here's what that contract said. Tyler could keep making movies, but he'd have to give up creative control. He'd have to let them pick the stories, pick the directors, and here's the kicker. They wanted to recast his movies with, quote, more mainstream actors. You know what that means, right? They wanted to take Tyler's stories about black families, black struggles, black joy, and whitewash them. Make them more palatable, more comfortable, more profitable for their sensibilities. Tyler looked at that contract, looked back up at this executive, and you know what he did? He stood up and walked out. Didn't say a word.
On the phone and we were yelling and screaming. I was saying everything I want to say. And after I got off the phone, I forgave him. And I was left empty. The forgiveness will rip something out of you.
Just walked out. But here's what nobody knew at that moment. Tyler had already started planning something that would change everything. Now, before I get into what happened next, let me take you back even further. Because to really understand why Hollywood feared what Tyler was building, you need to understand where he came from. This isn't just another rags to riches story. This is something deeper. Tyler Perry grew up in New Orleans in poverty. And I'm not talking about struggled a little bit poverty. I'm talking abuse, homelessness, contemplating suicide at 16 years old kind of struggle. His father beat him regularly. His mother worked multiple jobs just to keep food on the table. Tyler dropped out of high school. He was living in his car at one point.
This year I was met with a tremendous amount of loss and death all around me. And just 2 days ago, the president of my studio died in a plane crash. So I have been trying to push through, the show must go on. So I'm trying to
Writing plays on scraps of paper because he couldn't afford notebooks. And here's the wild part. While he's homeless, sleeping in his beat-up car, he's writing these stage plays about faith, family, and forgiveness.
It was a very, very difficult time. I was a child that was born to two wounded parents.
Stories that would eventually become the foundation of his empire. He saves up everything he has, and I mean everything, to produce his first play. It bombs completely, loses all his money. So what does Tyler do? He works more jobs, saves up again, tries again. It bombs again. This happens 6 times. 6 times Tyler Perry puts on a play, loses everything, and has to start from zero.
To this degree, no. I just knew that I could do small things because my mother was that way. We'd wake up in the morning and somebody else would be on the floor in our house sleeping. Like, who are these people? She's like, they needed a place to stay. Just be quiet. So my mother had this open heart.
Most people would have quit after the first failure. Tyler kept going. Why? Because he knew something Hollywood didn't understand yet. He knew there was an audience out there hungry for stories about them, stories that weren't punchlines or stereotypes, stories with heart. Finally, in 1998, his play, I Know I've Been Changed, catches fire in Atlanta. Suddenly, Tyler's selling out theaters. Then he creates this character, Medea, and it's like he'd struck oil. Black audiences, especially black women, were showing up in droves. We're talking lines around the block. And here's what's crucial. They weren't just coming once. They were coming back multiple times, bringing their friends, their families, their church groups. Tyler had tapped into something real. But Hollywood still wasn't paying attention. You know why? Because he was doing this in the South, in black theaters, in black communities. The industry gatekeepers in Los Angeles and New York didn't see it as legitimate. They thought it was small-time, regional theater stuff. They had no idea a storm was coming. Then, Diary of a Mad Black Woman happens in 2005. Lionsgate took a chance on distributing it, and boom, massive hit. Suddenly, Hollywood notices. But here's the thing, and this is important. They didn't notice because they respected what Tyler built. They noticed because they smelled money. Big difference. That's when those meetings started happening. The ones where executives would smile in Tyler's face while trying to figure out how to take what he created and make it theirs. How to sand off the edges. How to make it more, let's say, universal. And that's when Tyler had his revelation. He realized that no matter how successful he became in their system, he'd never truly own anything. They'd always have final say. They'd always be able to tell him what stories mattered and which ones didn't. They'd always be able to decide that his audience, his people, weren't valuable enough. So in 2006, Tyler makes a move that people thought was absolutely insane. He announces he's building his own studio. Not just renting space. Building. Owning. And he's doing it in Atlanta, not Los Angeles. Do you know how Hollywood reacted to this? They laughed. Behind closed doors, executives were calling it Perry's Folly. They were saying he'd go bankrupt within 2 years. They were placing bets on when he'd come crawling back, asking for a distribution deal on their terms. But here's what they didn't understand about Tyler Perry. Every no he had ever gotten, every door slammed in his face, every person who told him he wasn't good enough, that wasn't discouragement to him. That was fuel. Pure fuel. Tyler took that laughing, took that disrespect, and turned it into motivation that was absolutely unshakable. He bought a former Delta Airlines campus in Atlanta, 330 acres, started building sound stages, production facilities, post-production houses, everything you'd need to make movies from start to finish. And here's the genius part. He owned it all outright. No investors taking pieces, no studio having leverage. This was his. But the pushback he got during this process, that's where the real story is. First, he couldn't get loans from major banks. They wouldn't touch it. A black man trying to build a major movie studio? The risk models didn't make sense to them. Never mind that Tyler had made him unstoppable. Then, there were the whisper campaigns. And I'm telling you, this is where it gets really ugly. Suddenly, articles started appearing in trade publications questioning Tyler's talent, calling his movies lowbrow. Critics who'd never cared about his films before suddenly had think pieces about why his work was setting black cinema back. Prestigious film schools were using his movies as examples of what not to do. You see what was happening? They couldn't stop him legally. They couldn't stop him financially anymore because he was self-funding. So, they tried to destroy his reputation, make him look like a joke, make other black creators distance themselves from his model so nobody else would try to do what he was doing. And some of it worked. I'm not going to lie to you. There was a period where being associated with Tyler Perry wasn't cool in certain circles. Serious actors didn't want to be in his movies because they thought it would hurt their credibility. Black critics were calling him out for perpetuating stereotypes with Medea. Spike Lee publicly said his work was troubling. The pressure was intense from all sides. But Tyler kept building. While everyone was arguing about his artistic merit, He was constructing power, real power, the kind you can't take away with a bad review or a social media campaign. In 2015, Tyler Perry Studios officially opened, and it wasn't just big, it was monumental. 12 sound stages, every single one named after an influential Black American. Oprah Winfrey, Cicely Tyson, Denzel Washington, Sidney Poitier. The studio itself was a statement. This is ours. This is for us. This is what they said couldn't exist. And now, here's where Hollywood really started panicking. Because Tyler wasn't just making his own movies anymore. He was offering his studio to other creators. Suddenly, Marvel is shooting Black Panther there. Walking Dead is filming there. Hunger Games, Bad Boys. The studio that Hollywood laughed at was now hosting some of the biggest productions in the world. And every day those productions were there, they were paying Tyler, making him richer, making his studio more legitimate, making it impossible to ignore. But wait, there's more to this story. And this is the part that really shows you why they tried to stop him. Tyler didn't just build a studio. He built an entirely different economic model for Black content creation. Think about how Hollywood typically works. You pitch an idea to a studio, they give you money, but they own everything. You shoot their way, you edit their way, you release on their schedule. And at the end, you get a small percentage, if you're lucky, while they keep the rights forever. That's the game. That's how they maintain control. Tyler flipped that completely upside down. He owns everything he creates. Every play, every movie, every TV show. He controls the distribution. He controls the merchandising. He controls the streaming rights. When Netflix or Hulu or BET wants his content, they're negotiating with him on his terms, not studio terms, his terms. Do you understand how revolutionary that is? Tyler Perry essentially created a model where a Black creator could have the same power as a major studio. And if one person can do it, others can too. That's what Hollywood really feared. Because imagine if every successful Black creator followed Tyler's model. Imagine if they all said, actually, I'm going to own my masters, I'm going to build my own infrastructure, I'm going to keep my profits. The whole system would have to change. The power dynamic would shift. And that's exactly what's starting to happen now. Look at what's happening today. Ryan Coogler's building his own production company with serious backing. Ava DuVernay has Array. Issa Rae has Hooray. Dwayne Johnson bought XFL and is building his own entertainment empire. More and more Black creators are looking at Tyler's blueprint and saying, wait, we don't have to play their game. We can build our own. And it's not just Black creators, Latino creators, Asian creators. They're all watching and learning. But let me tell you what happened that really drove this point home for Tyler. It's 2019. Tyler throws this massive opening gala for his expanded studio. And who shows up? Oprah, Denzel, Whoopi, Halle Berry, Spike Lee, yes, the same Spike Lee who criticized him, Beyonce and Jay-Z, Samuel L. Jackson, Will Smith, literally the entire Black Hollywood elite is there. And then you know who else shows up? All those same executives who told him Black audiences weren't a real market, the ones who wanted him to give up creative control, the ones who laughed when he said he was building a studio, they're all there, smiling, shaking his hand, acting like they always believed in him. And Tyler being Tyler, he's gracious. He welcomes them. But you can see it in the footage from that night. You can see in his eyes that he remembers. He remembers every slight, every no, every time they tried to make him smaller. And now they're standing in his house, on his 330 acres, looking at his 12 sound stages, watching Oprah give a speech about how Tyler represents possibility. And they have to smile through it, knowing they could have been part of this. They could have supported this, but they chose to fight it instead. And they lost. Here's what Tyler said in an interview a year later that really stuck with me. He said, I didn't build this studio to compete with Hollywood. I built it so I wouldn't have to. Read between those lines. He's saying, I removed myself from a system designed to control me and built my own system where I make the rules. That's not just business strategy. That's freedom. Real freedom. And the numbers back it up. Tyler Perry Studios is now valued at over $600 million. Tyler himself is worth over $1 billion. He's one of the highest paid entertainers in the world. But more than that, he's employed thousands of people. He's given opportunities to Black actors, directors, writers, crew members who might never have gotten a shot in traditional Hollywood. His studio has an entire program for training people in production jobs. He's literally creating the next generation of black filmmakers and technicians. That's legacy. That's power that matters. Now, I want to bring this full circle because there's a lesson here that goes beyond just Tyler Perry's story. What Hollywood tried to do to Tyler, they've tried to do to every black creator who gets too successful, too independent, too powerful. They try to control the narrative. They try to control the money. They try to make you feel like you need them more than they need you. And for a long time, that worked because there was no alternative. You either played their game or you didn't play at all. But Tyler proved something fundamental. He proved that with vision, with relentless work ethic, with willingness to bet on yourself even when everyone says you're crazy, you can break free. You can build something they can't take from you. And once you do that, once you have your own platform, your own infrastructure, your own distribution, they have to respect you. They have no choice. That's why his story matters so much right now. We're in this moment where the old gatekeepers are losing power. Social media, streaming, digital distribution, it's all democratizing content creation. But Tyler did this before all that. He did it the hard way, brick by brick, soundstage by soundstage, movie by movie. And now young creators can look at what he built and say, if Tyler Perry can do it, maybe I can too. Hollywood tried to stop Tyler Perry because they understood what he represented. He represented a future where they weren't necessary anymore, where black stories could be told by black people, funded by black people, distributed to black audiences, and everyone could win except the middlemen taking cuts and controlling narratives. That's a threat to the whole system. And when the system feels threatened, it fights back with everything it has. But Tyler won, unquestionably won. And every time a Marvel movie films at his studio, every time a major production chooses Atlanta over LA because of infrastructure he built, every time a young black filmmaker gets their first job on one of his sets, that's another victory. That's another crack in the wall Hollywood tried to build around power and access. So the next time someone tells you your dream is too big, or your audience is too niche, or you should be grateful for whatever scraps the gatekeepers are willing to give you, remember Tyler Perry. Remember that he was homeless writing plays on scraps of paper. Remember that he failed 6 times before his first success. Remember that Hollywood told him no, told him he wasn't good enough, told him black women weren't a real audience. And remember that he responded by building a 330-acre studio that made him a billionaire and changed the entire landscape of black entertainment forever. That's not just an inspiring story. That's a blueprint. That's proof that the only limitations that really matter are the ones you accept. Tyler didn't accept their limitations. Now we have the blueprint. And that's something they can never take away. Tyler Perry exposed the game by refusing to play it. He built his own stadium, and now everyone else is paying him to play there. That's not just winning. That's revolution disguised as business. And it's absolutely beautiful to watch.